Lucas Newell took a last look in the mirror before stepping out of his small apartment. It was late at night, and he was almost certain no one was going to see him. Despite the summer heat, he wore a long overcoat to cover his outfit until he met up with the others. He crept slowly down the hall. The sound of a television in one of his neighbor's apartments drowned out the noise of him opening the window and lowering the fire ladder. Once in the alley, Lucas sped walked to his destination. He stood in front of an abandoned warehouse with a padlocked chain-link fence around the front. He walked around to the alley and found an open window. He climbed on top of some conveniently placed boxes and a dumpster to get into the building. Lucas Newell didn't always spend his nights creeping around in grungy, ill-lit alleys. He was an accountant with a wife and 2 kids. He had a membership to a country club and always had a summer rental on the beach. That all changed one night when the Newell family was returning home from a night out. As Lucas was buckling his sleeping son into his car seat, 2 masked men rushed him and forced him out of the car. He handed over his wallet and his keys as a third held a knife to his wife, Fiona's, throat. The 2 men pulled his groggy children, LJ and Olivia, out of the car as Lucas stood there, urinating on himself. Fiona screamed for him to do something, but he was frozen in fear. Their marriage didn't survive the incident. The longer Fiona stayed with Lucas, the less she respected him. He only discovered she had filed for divorce when he came home from a support group meeting to find the locks had been changed and a manila envelope with the papers inside had been taped to the door. With just the clothes on his back, Lucas moved into a scummy 1-bedroom apartment where he spent most of his time wallowing in his own depression. He lost his cushy job at the accounting firm, finding seasonal work at chain tax preparation stores. While working his way through a cold pizza and a warm case of beer, Lucas happened on an ad for a boxing gym. It was a gimmicky photo of a man in a homemade superhero costume. He sobered up and visited the gym, losing the beer weight and gaining some semblance of self-respect and self-confidence along the way. The man in the homemade superhero costume was the owner of the gym, who approached Lucas as he was leaving. "I hope you don't mind, but you looked familiar, so I looked you up. You were the guy who was carjacked in front of your family about a year ago, right?" Lucas nodded as he uneasily shifted on his feet. He was ready to turn and run if he didn't like the way the conversation was going. "I belong to a group of civic-minded individuals who are trying to clean up the streets, go where the cops can't, deal with the folks the cops won't, that sort of thing. If you're at all interested, we meet on the roof of the Porter Imports warehouse before we go on patrol, around 11. You should come check us out." That was enough to spark Lucas's passion again. He rushed home and found an old Halloween costume in the back of his closet. It was from the last Halloween they celebrated as a family, when they went as a family of superheroes. He was an amazing man who could do feats of strength and agility. Fiona was the Ginger Avenger, Olivia was the Cool Cucumber, and LJ was Junior Amazing. It was barely 10 o'clock when Lucas returned to his costume. Even though he was working out, the dark gray compression top fit tighter than he remembered. He ran his hand over the capital letter A Fiona ironed on to the front of his shirt before tucking his faded navy cargo pants into his scuffed combat boots and pulling on the dark blue compression sleeves. The final part of his costume was a red strip of synthetic satin with 2 eye holes cut out. He tucked the fabric into his pocket as he left while taking one last look at himself in the mirror. Lucas's footsteps echoed in the dark stairwell of the warehouse. He took off the overcoat and tied the fabric around his eyes. He was no longer Lucas Newell, divorced, broke, and depressed. The simple act of putting on an ill-fitting Halloween costume filled him with the confidence to open the door to the roof and join the others. Lucas immediately recognized the man standing closest to the door as the owner of the boxing gym. The man stuck out one of his large hands that was covered in a black studded leather glove. "I'm so glad you can make it. I'm Mike Durant, but I go by Shadow. Let me introduce you to the rest of the group." Mike took Lucas around the corner to where the other members of the patrol were waiting. There was a man in a fire proximity suit, a woman in a hooded cloak, and a tall man in full pirate regalia. "Jeffrey Anders, he goes by Fire Retardant. This is Monica Pine, she goes by Blades of Fury. And this is Thomas Santos, the Buccaneer. We're a cell of the Guild of Power. Everyone, this is Lucas Newel. He'll be joining us on patrol tonight." Lucas was overcome with too many emotions to speak. He watched with a sense of childlike wonderment as Monica took out a set of kunai knives and threw them into the wall over his shoulder. "So what's your story?" Jeffrey asked, his voice distorted by the oversized helmet he wore. "My family and I were carjacked at knife point, and I was helpless to do anything about it. My wife left me and got remarried, and I've been in a deep depression ever since. I joined Shadow's gym, and now I'm here." "So you got a name for yourself?" Monica asked, twirling a kunai on her middle finger. Lucas smiled a wide, cheesy grin. He was happy to have an identity again. He wasn't going to be a husband or a CPA. He was going to be Amazing Man.